Hi, I'm Tom Hendrickson from the DevOps Online Summit. Today, I'm joined by Samer Akkoub, a senior solutions architect at GitLab. Samer, introduce yourself to the people here at the DevOps Online Summit.
Hi, Tom, and thank you for having me today. My name is Samer Akkoub. I'm a solution architect with GitLab. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. We are about to exit the winter season now. I've been with GitLab for almost 2 years, and I've been in the field for, I think, 21 years this year, throughout where I experienced different positions between starting from development background into cloud infrastructure, cloud solutions, and now as a DevOps customer success solutions architect with GitLab. My role is basically to work with our enterprise customers across the Asia Pacific region, help them set up a proper DevSecOps capacity within their organization, help them review the current processes and make sure that what they are trying to achieve is achievable and can be achieved in an agile and quick and risk-free manner.
Yeah. So I like how you went through that, Samer, because I notice you and I are similar. We've been in this area for a while now, and we've seen a lot of different changes. And it's that's the thing. We see a lot of different technologies and things come down the pike, don't we?
100%, Tom. And you know what's funny is you're saying that because, when I started my career a long time ago, I was just a developer, and anything below the development, below the coding stage is not my responsibility. It's like somebody else is managing the servers. Like we always had the network admin, the server admin, the data center or server room, which I was not even allowed to log to. And now suddenly it's all became the developer responsibility all the way from doing the code until making sure that the infrastructure is capable to handle his code. Actually, the availability of the application is now becoming the developer responsibility and how they design the solutions. The roles and responsibilities definitely changed, emerged. I would say maybe merged into each other, between different roles in the data center.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. As you mentioned, you're here to talk to us today, Samer, about infrastructure as code. So just to kind of level set, what is infrastructure as code?
Excellent question. So funny, if you go and just Google infrastructure as code, trust me, you will find hundreds, if not more, of different interpretations. The one I like to keep it very simple and straight. It is the art of or the practice of the provisioning day one and managing day two of infrastructure through our using machine readable definition files.
Mm-hmm.
We are taking the talent, the practice of DevOps, and which used to be it is for developers to streamline the development process or development provisioning of the applications. We're taking the same concept and applying them to the infrastructure. Mm. So think of it as melting it down from rigid machines into code, soft code that can be managed, provision, and used to manage and provision this infrastructure many and multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important because, as you mentioned, we Samer have been in this industry a while, and these ideas are great. It's just you're amazed that it took us, I guess, in ways sometimes that it took us this long to figure this out because, as you probably remember, you've probably been there before where there was things that weren't versioned, things happened, and, as they say, the stuff hits the fan and we have to come in and help figure it out. So, but Samer, what are some of the benefits that you see for infrastructure as code?
Okay, so to think of it this way, let's take a happy day or a worse day scenario in a data center in order to sense the benefit. Again, in our days where we had you need to build a server to host your application. You are the poor developer who just want after some servers, some storage attached, some network attached to that, and like God be with you to have this setup done within, it depends on the organization. Trust me, I've seen that up to 3 months to provision 1.7.
Wow.
Now, the problem is, imagine that you are done with that, and then that's only one environment, the staging. And then you need testing, production, all of that. And then you are done, you're tired, you go home, you sleep. Next day morning, they are asking you for change. Oops, we have more users, come provision. Oh my God, I need to go back to the server room and go through that unpleasant practice again. The point is, once you turn that practice into code, then first you can repeat it safely, right?
Yeah.
Because you have the script, you have that essence of infrastructure. Second, which is very, very important, you can audit and review and collaborate this code. Again, the infrastructure has become code. The same way we review and share code, we can review now and share the infrastructure, right? And audit that infrastructure. And this audit part is very, very important, because I now, as a code owner or infrastructure owner, can report back, what do I have in my data center today, right? Hopefully with no drifts. Third, and this was a huge pain, that my code used to work in pre-production, but unfortunately it's not working in production. Yeah. What the hell is going there? I didn't know, because they are different. They most probably being provisioned by different people. Now I have the option to have a consistent experience, because the exact same code which is used to provision the pre-production will now be used to provision and configure the production environment. And last, but definitely not last, the one before the last one, is like security, the speed of provisioning. As I said before, provisioning a small infrastructure footprint for one application, trust me, I've seen that taking more than 3 months, especially in a very highly regulated environment. Now, I can do that in 5 minutes. Because it's the same audited, already checked, verified, stamped code, I'm using it. And last but definitely not least, the most trending, I'd say, term you'd hear in the market today, multi-cloud environment. I can use my code not only to provision against one cloud provider exactly, but I can use it against multiple cloud providers. Huge flexibility. I tell you, this is not only a luxury thing, it's becoming a mandatory thing for many industries. Avoid vendor lock-in. I want your code to be transportable between different background infrastructure. So yeah, these are just some of them. I can go through a very long list, but these are, I believe, the most important ones.
Yeah, I think especially as you mentioned that last one, avoiding that vendor lock-in. I know I won't say the name of the company, but I used to work for a partner of a large software firm, and that's the thing where a lot of corporations are worried about that, aren't they? Have that vendor lock-in that we're going to go to all to XYZ or ABC for our cloud, and that's a problem.
Exactly, 100%. And I can say I was on several calls in the last 10 days, and I hear that we as industry, in certain industry, let's say telco, finance, even government, vendor lock-in is a big no-no, and the regulator has made it very explicit. So I should be able to provision my code in a consistent way. Don't hear it, there is a challenge. By the way, you can do that without infrastructure as a code by hiring people. But if you will need to hire 3 different people at least to cover the 3 main cloud providers, plus your data center to do that. Good luck finding that, especially with the COVID. Good luck maintaining that. Exactly. And then keep their like experience. Meanwhile, I can have a central place, vendor, let's say agnostic, sort of vendor agnostic script where I can provision my infrastructure and have the same experience.
Yes, so important.
Thank you.
So Samir, what are some of the tools and technologies that you would classify as infrastructure as code?
Excellent. So I'll tell you, there is the obvious one, or the obvious category, I would say, and then the category which people sometimes tend to miss. The obvious one, when I tell you, okay, Tom, let's go. When you ask me, actually, Simon, let's go and do an infrastructure as a code. I was like, okay, cool. The two obvious, most common market scripting are CloudFormation and Terraform. This is not a secret; it's well known, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm excited. Tom has asked me finally to do this infrastructure as a code. I will go and start building scripts using CloudFormation if you are mainly working on AWS, or Terraform maybe if you are keen to do more of different vendors. Cool. Then I'll next day again excited, get Tom in the room. Tom, I have done that. I'm provisioning the code. Cool, excellent. But then I keep that script somewhere as text file, somewhere in the server, somewhere in my machine. And then guess what? We are back to square zero. Because after 2 months, 6 months, I may leave the organization, or you may ask me, okay, can we use the code to provision another infrastructure? And it's like, I don't know. I use that code to do the day one, but honestly, I never updated that code. I really don't know who changed the code anymore. So I cannot. And this brings us to the second category, the capacity or the function to properly set up infrastructure code, including source code management, automation tools, collaboration on top of that infrastructure. And collaboration, it has to be connected in the same solution to where you are managing your infrastructure, because I want Tom's comment to be direct to the line where I'm changing. So the two categories I would say to answer your question is the scripting tools, Terraform, CloudFormation, Google Scripts, whatever, and then the management tools, which is a very important one for the setup or managing of the tools. Last thing on this question is, the good news is we can use or reuse the same platform that the developer have been using for the DevOps and set up the infrastructure, or I would say the GitOps part of the story. We don't really, despite the fact that you are standing up a new practice, we don't really need to do that. We can reuse the same, but the idea should be there. It's not about the scripting tools alone. It's about also how to manage and audit and control them.
Yeah, those are two important aspects, Samir. I think that's
100%. 100%.
So,
thank you.
So as we look at infrastructure as code, what is a good way to get started for maybe a company that's not there yet, but wants to start out?
Cool. I have seen that, and the good thing is most of the customers today. You know what? I'll tell you about a nice experience. I had experience with a huge financial institute, and the fact that they did not start from that part, they had a mix of scripting and hardwired infrastructure. So the good way to start is, where are you today? Are you lucky and you are starting from a completely greenfield deployment, or do you already have a provisioned infrastructure? Now, if you are starting from greenfield, I extremely highly recommend that you set up, make sure that you have the supporting functions, the one we touched on: source code management, automation, collaboration, set up and ready. And then, you can start decide on the scripting tool you want to use, Terraform, CloudFormation, manage them in that through that function. And then you can streamline. Decide. Now, we are lucky that we have the cloud technologies around. That's great, because that's really helped us to provision the infrastructure, the servers, the storage, the network, and all the required configuration for all of them, and make them like a code thing, which is great. After you decide on the script, start provisioning sample, let's say, testing environments. Learn repeat the cycle, learn, enhance, fine tune your scripting, and then you can do the same to do the other. To provision the other environments. Important thing here is the roles and responsibilities, right? Because I want to control who is allowed to collaborate, to change, and to actually hit that green button and provision and infrastructure. Finding the right balance between automation and still manual auditing. And third, finding or defining the proper test cases for how do you consider your environment as a ready environment for production workload. Have these scenarios ready. Try to automate them. So you are not only provisioning, but also you are testing that provisioned infrastructure and make it ready for your deployments.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's good stuff. Samer, as somebody, you talked about a little bit about this, but what are some of the pitfalls as we jump into something like this?
Excellent. Rushing into it. So as I said before, I've seen cases where, yes, let's do infrastructure as a code. Here's my script. I'm giving it to you, or I'm maintaining it on my machine. A very, very dangerous part of infrastructure as a code is when you don't realize that there is a state for your provision, and you allow the drift between the actual implementation and the state. You know what? One day, we were doing like a production deployment. And we had to provision, actually to re-provision, because we destroyed the previous one. And we are like, innocently, we needed to re-provision that infrastructure. We thought that we have the code. So the problem was, trust me, the first problem was to find the latest version of that code. Mm-hmm. Then when we agreed that, okay, most probably based on the date time of that, this is the latest. When we provisioned, it didn't give us the same output, because simply some people took the shortcut, mm-hmm. especially when you are under stress, under pressure, and they went direct to the server and they changed the configurations exactly on the server, and made things work. The management clapped, like, okay, great job, let's go back home. Nobody went back and updated the scripts. Mm-hmm. Actually, the best practice, if you want to avoid this pitfall, close the door into any SSH, direct into SSH or direct configuration to your infrastructure. Yeah. Don't allow that at all by any whatever is mm-hmm. the game. Don't allow that. There should be a well-defined practice for provisioning. Mm-hmm. Now, good thing is many organizations are doing that. So, but still, I see it happening from the time to time. So drifting mm-hmm. is a big challenge and a big no-no. Roles and responsibilities sometimes are not defined properly, which may give people unintentional, let's say, access to that infrastructure, and they can change it. Mm-hmm. Missing that source code management, as much as it looks simple, mm-hmm. the source code management part. Not having a full history on who has changed what is a big pitfall, trust me, because it doesn't make any difference if I change the code, if I change a port on the server direct, or if I change it in the infrastructure. Yeah. If I don't want to change that port, that should not be changed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this is the other thing. But the good news is they can all be avoided in when you do that infrastructure. In GitLab, mm-hmm. we provide DevOps and GitOps platform as an end-to-end platform where customers are using GitLab to store the source of that exactly, and then automate the provisioning for that infrastructure. One last thing, please. Some people miss, or some implementations miss the day two of that infrastructure, which is feedback or monitor the provisioned infrastructure and take actions based on that. You can do it. It was hard before when we had rigid servers. Now we can do it. You can feed, like gather, use maybe some machine learning, decide on the changes, and put them back and close that cycle of feedback. And this is one of the use cases we help customers with in GitLab. Yep.
Cool. Samer, thank you so much. Any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts is that the technologies are there. The tools 100% are there. When you choose a DevOps or GitOps tool, keep in mind all of these requirements and expand your use cases. Mm-hmm. We are in the IT, we have now the luxury to set up a platform rather than tools. Avoid as much as possible the multi-tools, multi-siloed. Nobody wants to add more 3-4 tools into the data center, at least to say that I have infrastructure as a code. Try to have a consolidated platform as much as possible to cover the whole life cycle. And always remember that infrastructure as a code, when people think is the scripting is so much bigger than that. It starts all the way from requirements gathering until you do the deployments and monitoring. So the scripting piece is a main building block, but it is one of the building blocks in this overall chain.
Yeah, very good, Samer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you. That's great.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On behalf of Samer Akkoub, I am Tom Hendrickson for the DevOps Online Summit.